Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for July 26th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I'm here today to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 26 live feeds. It was day 10 in the house, and there was an eviction, there was an HOH competition, and plenty more to talk through here today. And with me to talk through it all is Pooya. How you doing, Pooya?
Doing great. Happy to be here. Excited, but I will say, Taran, if you start doing a British accent midway through this update and continue it on, I might have to leave.
What you talking about?
That.
It's our live feed update.
Why is it Cockney?
It's the only one I know, to be honest.
I love it. I love it.
No. So plenty to talk about here. We are here at noon Eastern on Fridays. That is generally the time that we will be here on Fridays because we just spoke with Matt. So that exit interview will be up shortly, I would imagine. So stay tuned for that. I thought it was honestly a very fun conversation with Matt. He is a very charming guy. And luckily there were still some surprises that we had for him in terms of some of the alliances going on in the house and stuff like that. So stay tuned for that. But let's talk about what we saw on the feeds yesterday. It was our first eviction. There really wasn't much leading up to the eviction, as we kind of assumed. It was just a lot of the same. Matt not really knowing that he needed to do work. Kenny feeling like he'd probably go home anyway. And Chemo, being very safe. Basically, was the thing. And that led us into the eviction, where we saw the AI arena competition, where Kenny won, where Chemo won, leaving Kenny and Matt on the block. And then Matt was evicted by an 8-3 vote, with Lisa, Leah, and Makensy being the only three that voted for Matt to stay. So the feeds came back fairly quickly after the episode. And we fairly quickly found out that Lisa was not being super open about her vote, or at the very least, that Leah and Makensy were very confused about who the third vote with them was, which was all very confusing. I can only assume that Lisa was like, "Oh, damn, I really wanted to be in the majority. Let me just pretend I was."
Which is funny because some of the names I've heard from the people who did vote out Kenny and Kenny himself are very false and off base, but everybody else is kind of thinking it's Lisa and she's lying.
Yes, which is in fact the case.
Mm-hmm.
So we had this period of time basically when the feeds came back before the HOH competition happened. And in that time, there were a couple of conversations. T-Core talked to Leah. Like, everybody has wanted to get in with Leah, but she has been too attached to Matt and Makensy. So now that Matt is gone, it's a matter of who can get to Leah first. And T-Core wanted to strike while the iron was hot. So T-Core got in there early. She said, "Hey, I just want to check in with you and make sure that you're feeling okay. How are things going?" And Leah said, "Haha, you have activated my trap card. I am now going to tell you the entire story of my life." And they had a very lengthy conversation where Leah was just kind of like talking about like how she got here and how, being here is a win for her in the first place. And, that people always underestimate her. And it was a whole thing.
Yeah, typically when you're in a conversation with Leah, and actually quite a few people in this house, it is not going to be a quick one. And you might just be the role of the listener, which T-Core has proven in this last week that she is the number one best listener in the house, because, and the memes are out there, the ums and the mhms with T-Core go hard. And the good news is no one finds that bad. No one sees it negatively. If Tikor's humming you, personally, if I'm monologuing for 10 minutes and someone's doing that, I'm like, okay, they're either bored or I should stop talking. Doesn't seem to have an impact with someone like Leah. She just goes on and on and on. And at least if she leaves feeling good about it, then that's a great place to be.
Yes. And so lots of that. Leah really um was feeling something last night for a while. She was talking to Tikor, she was coming up with jingles and when I say jingles, I mean like it's like if you crossed a jingle with like death metal. That was basically what the jingle was because there was lots of screaming at the end. She also talks about how like the Pavlov's dog experiment, like that's like my life. Like that's so meaningful to me. That's what I base my life off of is Pavlov's dog, where they press the button and they get the thing. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. Uh Makensy, in the meantime, also is having her own kind of spiraling moments. She's talking a lot about how she wants to be seen as her own player, and that she needs to figure out how to move forward. She's talking with Rubina about that, and then of course, like Angela later was like, "Hey, Rubina, what was Mackenzie saying? Was she saying anything about me?" And so there's definitely some fallout happening, but nothing too meaningful yet because the HOH competition has not happened.
The only thing I want to flag up before we get to the post HOH feeds is that we had a moment where Chelsea was talking about how Makensy, aka MJ, was talking about how, now she's ready to like get to know people more and like keep communicating. And Chelsea basically felt like, oh, now that your man's gone, now you want to switch to tides? Interesting. You should have been doing this the whole time. Just keep that in mind.
Yes. So we got to the HOH competition, and when the feeds came back, it was Chelsea who won the HOH competition. Chelsea, who did not want to win the
No.
HOH competition, was one of the people who was actively saying that she wanted to throw it. And so it is very interesting that she won. Basically, what we discovered is that she had intended to throw the competition, but Leah had gotten too far in the competition, and Chelsea did not want to cede the HOH to Leah, and so she had to stay in until Leah was out, and by then she just accidentally won the competition. And so now Chelsea, who I believe had the highest rating in the stock watch this week, has won the HOH, and in many ways could determine the rest of how this game plays out with how she plays this HOH. And so we'll see what she's capable of.
Yeah, she wanted to throw it to Tikor, who assumingly was also in the competition. But like you said, once Leah got far enough, she kind of had to go for it or ends up winning. I believe it was a Q&A. They had to watch a video of some sort or something and then answer some questions. So that's what she won. I do think this is a very interesting week, typically, especially when the first HOH fumbles the gathering of alliances or setting up a structure. The second HOH gets the second crack at it and can build it up. And I think the fact that the house has quite a few people who, A, can be seen as house targets in a weird way, or B, dummies who volunteer to go on the block because why not? You're kind of set in a really good spot to coast on this one. But then we still have the outside factors of the other upgrades that could be coming into play or are in play. We'll see. So I think overall it's a net positive for Chelsea's game, but we'll see.
Yeah, and there were a lot of people that were throwing, actually. It turns out even Tikor, who said she wanted to win prior to the HOH, was also throwing, as was Chemo, as were a lot of people. We know that that Quinn was throwing as well. We also discover that the have-nots are Rubina, Leah, Mackenzie, and Lisa. And nobody is happier about that than Tucker. And he even has a brief conversation with Lisa where Lisa is kind of like, "Oh yeah, I'm like actually super excited that I'm a have not." And Tucker very graciously offers to help with some cooking. And she's like, "Oh, that would be so great." Oh, Tucker, I just really appreciate our chef to chef banter. And he's like, yeah, me too.
It was so funny when he essentially says to her, yeah, you're gonna like it because you're gonna get to experiment and figure out how to cook with slop. That'll be fun for you. That's a good time.
Yes. Katie in the chat is asking, is glitter allowed in slop? And that was a genuine question that they had to determine. No, I don't think glitter is allowed. It's not on the list. So again, Leah's continuing to do her thing. Chelsea says to the cameras fairly quickly that she's not entirely sure what she's going to do, but what she is sure of is that Lisa is her target, which makes a ton of sense. It's exactly what we said last week, that Lisa is a very easy consensus target for the week. She basically has no allies. And by targeting Lisa, you can really create the exact structure of the house that you would like, especially if you're somebody like Chelsea and you don't have any enemies right now. So I think this makes a lot of sense from her right now. You can always change the plan given the events of the week, but this is definitely, I think, the right move for her at this point.
Yeah, again, she's in a very good spot where there is a consensus target that everyone will be like, oh yeah, I can get behind that. That's easy. And also with the House vote being 8-3, it's also easy to put the other two up for her and be like, well, listen, you all know why I did this. And everyone's going to be like, yeah, we get that. So it's a very, very good spot for her to be in. Also, to go back to the have-nots real quick, it sounds like each have-not got to pick somebody and Tucker got to pick Lisa the way God intended. So happy that happened.
And it's what's made it even easier for Chelsea is that Kenny has already volunteered for the block. So she has an automatic nom just ready to go. Easy pickings.
Listen, Kenny, all I'm gonna say is if you loved Matt so much, why didn't you just leave? Why are you taking up space in this whole house? Why? Listen, and I'm not saying this like Matt was going to be amazing and go I think Matt would still end up on the block in this situation here. But at the very least, the dude was cocky, was arrogant, was trying something, was making me feel emotions negatively. Kenny just infuriates me because he's doing nothing. He's filling up air. He's taking up oxygen in that house.
Yeah, I mean, I think we are now at the point where I will happily say, just let him leave, big brother. Just let him leave. I know you've got a schedule. I know you like want, your twists and stuff to line up or whatever. Just let him leave. Just let him leave. Give him his little bit of stipend that you give these poor people. And let him leave. And then we can continue on with our lives.
Yeah, to me it feels like every time he decides he's back in, it's to try and win the comp. And when he doesn't win, he's like, all right, get rid of me. Like, no, you lost the HOH. Now you want to leave? Honestly, I've seen a lot of people talk about this where like, I want to be petty and keep him in. Just like if you want to leave on your own accord. But also, I don't want to sacrifice someone I'm rooting for or like for this, or someone that's going to provide me any sense of drama for this. So just get rid of him, cut your losses. But I guess the question is, Taran, would you rather we get another zombie week or Kenny stays?
That's true.
It's a hard question to answer at this time.
Yeah, I guess we'll see about that one. Okay, so Chemo, Rubina, and T-Core talk about the vote. They talk about how they want to kind of group up a little bit with some of the people they trust. There's mention of a big alliance. One of the main plot lines through the night in terms of alliance building, and just to reset this, in terms of alliances, from week one, there was the Barbershop Alliance, the BS Alliance, which is BS,
aptly named,
but still technically exists. There was then the Collective Alliance, which is also BS, but also still kind of technically exists just without Angela. So the remnants of Matt versus Angela still are technically there, but not really real. So then if you get a layer deeper to like the more real alliances, you have the three C's, Cam, Cedric, and Chelsea, who are part of the Pentagon, which includes Quinn and Brooklyn as well. But Quinn and Brooklyn have recognized that they're on the bottom of that group of five. And so Brooklyn has her own sort of stuff going on. She's talked to Rubina a bit. She has her own relationships with people like Leah and even to some degree like T-Core and Chemo. Meanwhile, Quinn is even more active. He has his own thing going on with the Have Not Room. They call themselves the Andersons, which Cam is also involved in. And I'm sorry if this is like a lot, but the previous Have Not Room, the Andersons, are Quinn, Chemo, Cam, and Tucker. And then Quinn is also developing a group, and this is the one that is most relevant for tonight. That is himself, Chemo, T-Core, and they've talked about maybe Rubina as a fourth. And they're just thinking of ways to try to build out this group. I think this is the one that Quinn is the most invested in terms of actual groups. He is tightly locked in with Chemo. Chemo is one of two players he has told about his power. And Chemo obviously has a good relationship with T-Core, as does Quinn. And so this group is the one to keep an eye on, especially throughout this first night of Chelsea's HOH.
And I gotta say, I love this group. I think this group has a lot of potential. I think that unlike the three C's in Cam, Cedric, and Chelsea, I think not a lot of people are going to be onto them. Not that a lot of people are onto those three specifically, but it's clear enough to some people that there are connections, bonds there that are pretty strong. So I like their standing right now. I like where Chemo's situated in it. I like where T-Core is situated in it and where Quinn is. I feel like all of them, in a weirdly unique way, could be seen as a triangle. They could be seen at the tip of the triangle in a weird way. If you talk about some of the other connections they have, which we'll get to.
Mm-hmm. Now, in the meantime, the three C's must discuss who they are going for. But Cam doesn't get involved until a little bit later. So at first, it's going to be Chelsea and T-Core with Cedric there as well. And they're going to discuss the possible nominations. Chelsea makes it fairly clear that she wants to be targeting Lisa. But the question is, who else does she nominate? Does she even nominate Lisa right away? And so the options being discussed are Makensy. Angela is an easy nom because it would make she's by herself. And it would, sort of placate Makensy, Leah, and Lisa if Angela is also on the block to make it seem like, oh, well, she's potentially the target. Kenny volunteered. So he's a great option. And then, even Lisa or Leah could also both go on the block. So those are kind of the options. It's Makensy, Angela, Kenny, Leah, Lisa, 5 people, 3 nominee chairs. That's kind of what they're looking at.
And as of this moment, one of the big things Chelsea wants to tackle with her HOH was obviously Lisa being her person she would like to see out of the house. She also wants to flush the upgrade is kind of the conversation here. She wants to figure out who has it, and if we can flush it, that's good too.
Yes, which is a very important point. Chelsea and Cedric talk a bit more privately. Cedric says that he would like to keep the facade of the barbershop up if possible. He has always been the most invested in the barbershop. Chelsea is basically like, there is no barbershop. Who in the barbershop did not just vote out Matt? Just Makensy and Leah. It's just Makensy and Leah at this point. But he says, yeah, but also kind of Kenny, right? And she's like, okay, I guess. She's from Chelsea's point of view, she's most concerned that Cam is trying very hard to protect Leah. Now, this is and my hope here is that, again, here in week 2, a lot of these things will start to feel solidified and we'll know what's relevant. So one thing that is potentially becoming relevant here is that Cam and Leah, and we've briefly mentioned it in updates prior to this, they have a developing relationship, a little bit of a flirtation. Leah is a fairly flirty person in general, but that has not gone unnoticed by Chelsea, who feels like that, Cam might be feeling like he wants to do something with Leah, at least strategically. And she's like, I don't know how I feel about that, is kind of the vibe that I'm getting in this conversation. So she's pointing it out to Cedric.
Yeah, which is funny to me because then when Cam walked into that room and he was like, it's easy. We put Leah, Lisa, Mackenzie, easy. And they're like, well, Kenny volunteered. Like, oh, perfect. Then put Lisa, Mackenzie, and Kenny up and leaves Leah out of that equation. So that's definitely going to be, it's going to be very interesting to keep an eye on these three to see if that connection ends up not severing ties, but kind of causing complications in their little group. Because, on the flip side, with like a T-Core, Chemo, and Quinn, the reason I like their positioning is that it's very clear they're all okay to talk to other people, and no one seems to be concerned about their other connections, at least at the very moment.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, that's exactly what happens. Cam comes in, and I'm not sure how his reaction changed Chelsea's perception, if it did at all. But she is going to talk with Tucker a bit later. She does a couple of one-on-ones. She's not actively seeking out one-on-ones. She wants people to come to her and essentially like get a sense of like who's willing to come to her. It's interesting because it is pretty dramatically against the meta. Like that is
Mm-hmm.
over, especially the last few years. The HOH just does one-on-ones with everyone. It's just what people do. And it can be very valuable because you will occasionally get some information that you didn't know existed. Somebody will slip up, or you can like easily trap somebody into saying something they maybe shouldn't have. But it'll be interesting to see, how this works out for her. I think a lot of people will want to talk to her, but if they don't, there is potentially some benefit in the sense that, hey, you didn't come and talk to me is a pretty good reason to put somebody on the block. So we'll see how this plays out. But Tucker does want to talk to her. And of course, when she's asking Tucker what his thoughts are with Lisa and how badly he would like for Lisa to leave this week, and how if she is nominated, he would love to be picked to play in the veto so that he can beat her in the veto and make sure she goes home.
He would like nothing more than to win the veto, not use it, and put the final nail in her coffin, is the feeling I got. And this brings me joy. I'm really happy that we're seeing Tucker be a little bit more involved in the game. Obviously, when you and I first spoke last week, it was very clear that everyone had this impression that Tucker had put out there that he doesn't want any alliances or any game yet. But I feel like he's been trying to learn and move. And I feel like he's been very clear who his target is. And I think that's a good spot for him to land. To rewind real quick, Taran, I don't want to take too much of the time here about this Chelsea decision for the one-on-ones are optional and they're opt-in, not mandatory. I do like this. I feel like it's kind of like, office hours with a professor, because the people that really want it, they're going to come in and talk to you. I also like the idea from just a social game standpoint of, if I'm the HOH and it's optional, who's so comfortable that they're not talking to me? Who thinks they have me wrapped up that they're not even going to bother checking in? I think that's good, something to keep an eye on moving forward for your game. If someone doesn't talk to you, especially if someone you think you're in an alliance with, it's like, oh, so you're that comfortable? I don't like that. But then also getting a lot of information is good. Seeing who's scared is good. So I think it's a net positive ultimately. And I think as a viewer, some of those one-on-ones never hit when everyone got a turn. So I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, and there's also like a way where this could help with perception. When you have people coming in one by one to do one-on-ones, it does make you feel like you're doing performance reviews. Like if you want to maintain the social positioning that Chelsea currently has, which was she was previously downgraded. She was somebody that was like in
Yeah.
everybody's ear, and wasn't really seen as like a big power player. I think as the HOH, you have to lean into it a little bit, but obviously lots of people lean into it way too hard. So yeah, I'm very curious to see how Chelsea handles it all. Now she does tell Tucker, they talk about this, that she does think Mackenzie has the power. This has been a fairly widespread suspicion for a while. And she says basically straight up, she'd love to see if she can get it out of her and see if she can get Mackenzie to admit to her that she has the power, which is basically exactly what she attempts to do in her next one-on-one, which is with Makensy.
Yeah, Makensy, this went very long,
Yes.
especially compared to Tucker. It went what felt like forever. And if I recall, the last one-on-one of the night, right, for Chelsea at least.
Yes, for Chelsea. Yeah. And so they, Makensy, part of the reason this goes long is that it's like the Leah conversation with T-Core where Mackenzie's basically like explaining everything about her life and her feelings, but with less energy. And so she's talking about how she wants to be seen as her own player. She recognizes that she was secluding herself with Matt in the game, and Chelsea's kind of like, I mean, if you recognize that that was happening, why did you keep doing it? And Mackenzie's just like, oh yeah, I mean, I get that. It was just so that I felt this way, and that the Angela thing happened, and then the this, and then the that, and so on and so forth. Right? It's really, honestly, like sometimes I'm like, oh, check out this conversation. Don't check out this conversation. It's really not worth it. Chelsea does claim that she was not told about the Matt vote ahead of time, that she maybe had a feeling. And Mackenzie's like, yeah, I also had a feeling. But that she was not explicitly told about the vote. She is still maintaining that deniability. Chelsea says, we finally get to the interesting part. She says, I really want to figure out where the two power-ups are. Because, I just want to figure out if, like, I might want to work with those people that have those power-ups. And she stares at Makensy. And Mackenzie's like, well, I will say, I don't know if I should say this, but I do have one. I do have a power up. I almost used it on Matt, but I didn't. And she goes on into the explanation of why she didn't use it on Matt. And then she goes on to explain what it is. She says it is the America's veto. And quite honestly, I really only want to use it on myself because I don't have control over who gets put up if I use it. America does. So they could, for all I know, I could use it and then they could be like, now I'm going to put up your closest ally. Joke's on you. And so I don't really know if I want to use it outside of saving myself. And so at this point, Chelsea's like, oh, because of course, and we'll talk about this very soon, but like, this is news to Chelsea in terms of how this power works.
Right.
And it's very relevant to Chelsea as the HOH. Now they do briefly talk more about like what the nominations could look like. Chelsea says she's been looking at like Angela and Kenny because those are pretty easy names to throw out to Makensy. Kenny volunteered. Angela is what Makensy wants. Makensy says if Angela's your target, you should probably put people up that can win, and you probably shouldn't put her up initially. She has some plans about that, but she's kind of buying into the idea that Angela might be the house consensus target. So then she leaves, and Chelsea's like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. I was trying to not win for this exact reason. I mean, good to know, but what do I do? I could put her up knowing she has to use it, or I could like keep her on my side type vibes. I don't know. And it's a genuine conundrum, Pooya, because what this means is she could flush the power, but that diminishes her own power as the HOH because she does not get to name the replacement nominee. And it could ruin her entire week if America chooses the wrong person. She has no idea what America might do. Mm-hmm. But if she leaves Makensy off the block, she's allowing Makensy to hold her power, which could screw her over in the coming weeks. So what does she do?
Right. It's a very interesting space to be in now if you're Chelsea, because I think that if Mackenzie's power is flushed, obviously then Makensy can go up and go home next week if they so choose. And if Makensy doesn't win the veto. But the other interesting elements here are, Taran, I don't want to admit this, but I'm gonna. I went sleuthing last night. I dove deep into that Big Brother Casuals Facebook group.
Are you okay?
I've survived.
Okay.
I live to tell the tale. Yes, I think so.
We might need to do some checks just to make
check
sure
and
that
see if I was brainwashed. Yeah, see if I say any words that we don't approve of.
Pooya,
Yeah,
how do you feel about showmances?
love them. I mean, I hate them. Hate them. I hate them. Boo, showmans is what people would say. So what's funny is, first of all, with this Facebook group, they have not been making posts. The last post they have is when they had like the reporters, the journalists go and play Big Brother for half a day. That's the last post they have. So basically the comments under that have become the message board on Big Brother Facebook group, because people are still commenting on that like that is the place to be. And I went digging. Over 800 comments, Taran. Nothing but Angela. Angela sucks. Angela should go. Angela should have been kicked. So we know they'll put up Angela if the America's veto is used. However, with Makensy not putting this info out, if she doesn't want to really go after her, that combined with Angela kind of telling everyone I expect to be put up and it's kind of a freebie. If Angela starts on that block or is the replacement nominee for the power of veto holder, who are they going to put up? Because at this point, we know who they're going to put up until the House puts up Angela. Then I genuinely don't know. It'll come down to what the edit is on Sunday, what the edit is on Wednesday. And that's a very scary place to be. On the other hand, too, if you're Chelsea and you're like, well, everything's kind of gone my way so far, is America going to think, we can't have Chelsea get everything. We like an underdog. Does she see it that way and panic and then avoid Makensy altogether for that, too?
Well, and this is the thing, Pooya. Let's say that you're right, that Angela does go on the block in some form or fashion and is not an option for the audience. If we go by the assumption that the audience, the casual audience, is still like very much pro Matt and Makensy, and that Makensy is like holding the torch for Matt in the coming episodes, and Makensy gets nominated by Chelsea, I think that what Makensy explained would happen potentially to Chelsea. Maybe one of Chelsea's allies goes on the block as retaliation for nominating Makensy in the first place, forcing her to use her power, especially if they are seen as sort of like the people in charge right now, the people in power. And so, it would not surprise me if we saw, one of Chelsea's perceived allies potentially go on the block if that were to happen. But again, there's also other edits in the coming episodes that could certainly change that. So the question is, should Chelsea do this? And honestly, without having put like a ton of thought into it yet, to me it feels like no. It kind of feels like it's a little risky. Of course, there is some benefit. You could do it. You could flush it. Even if one of your allies goes on the block, you still have the numbers, probably. You can still control the other two nominations, which means you can still guarantee at least one of your nominations sits on the block at the end of the week. And with your numbers, you can make sure that person leaves. But there's a lot of risk attached to that. And if the audience is putting up your allies after an America's veto, what does that do to the perception of you in the house? There's a lot of talk last night about how the audience in the studio seemed to be cheering for Chemo when he won. And so there's now, I think, a perception that like the audience is on Chemo's side. The audience is anti-Matt, essentially, which is not really true. But if they are, putting Chelsea's allies on the block, it's possible that the audience might, or that the people in the house might feel like, well, why do they hate Chelsea? Like, what's going on? So there's some danger there. Not to mention the fact that she's just actively like, hey, Makensy, felt comfortable enough and trusted me enough to tell me about her power. And now I'm forcing her to use it. I'm flushing it. And she's definitely staying until next week. That's creating a guaranteed enemy. When you could maybe just say, like, hey, Makensy, I really appreciate you told me about that power. I'm really going to trust you. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave you off the block, but I do have to put up Leah, and maybe it's not Leah if she really wants to continue working. Maybe it's Lisa, Kenny, and Angela. And then Renom can be Renom, right? Like you can deal with that later. And there's value to that too. So yeah, I mean, that I think would be my instinct. Is I just don't think you can turn around and put Makensy on the block right away. I think it's too risky, I feel.
Yeah, I think ultimately once you know that it comes down to a public vote of who's going to be put up, you just cannot risk. Again, there's a lot of negative things that can come into it. Obviously, it can be positive, and the public puts up someone that you're very okay with, but you just don't want to have to deal with that right now. I really don't think so. My question to you is: do you think Chelsea should keep this to herself? Should Chelsea tell her alliance mates and friends who and what the power is?
That's a good question. I think that she probably needs to tell the three C's, and that's
Mhm.
probably it.
Yeah, because Mackenzie might. She said she might just put it out there and let everyone know she has it too.
Yes, and I think that she has to make sure she understands with Mackenzie, like, exactly what Mackenzie plans to say to other people. So she knows what she should be saying to other people. But I do think that, like, I think that trying to make a deal, trying to work with Mackenzie just because, like, the danger is that if you leave the veto in the game, there's 2 more weeks to use it after this. You could be on the receiving end of that veto if other players go after Mackenzie. And that could be bad. But if you, like, if you say, "Hey, Mackenzie, I'd really like to work with you. Would you even be willing to maybe use the veto on me in the future if I help protect you this week?" So on and so forth. Like, I think there's options here. Um, but at the very least, I think right now the decision right in front of you is, I don't think you nominate Mackenzie right away. For the very bare minimum of, if you nominate her straight up, she doesn't have to use her veto yet. She could still win the actual veto,
Exactly, and
and
have
then
a
it's not
bonus one.
flushed, and now she has the veto and is against you.
Yes.
So at the very least, you leave her off the block initially. If you want to flush it, you do it on a renom. And that gives you time to sort of, like, talk more with her and get a sense of whether or not you feel like that's a workable relationship.
And not for nothing, my mentality, to go to Survivor real quick, is I don't mind not having the idol myself. As long as I know who has it, so I can play around it, I'm content. And I feel like for Chelsea, let someone else flush it. Especially if it becomes more public information, let someone else take that bullet on their HOH reign. You don't need to, especially if you make nice with Mackenzie. At least you would feel somewhat safe that it won't come back to haunt you.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and like, a future HOH will have to deal with the same problem.
Mhm.
If they want to flush it, if they want to nominate Mackenzie, they will have to deal with the fact that they will have to give up one of their nominations to America.
Right.
And so there's a decent chance that nobody just ends up nominating Mackenzie until the end of her power, in which case you might never have had to deal with the problem at all. It just means that Mackenzie is like safe for a couple more weeks, but, like, that's not like that bad for you, especially given the position that Chelsea is in right now.
Yeah, and ultimately, obviously, with this HOH that Chelsea didn't want to win, she is still in a good spot in that we cannot stress this enough. Two people have basically said, put me up. Two out of the three slots have said, nominate me. And the third slot can be reserved for the target that you actually won out in Lisa. I think the question for me, the bigger question is the worry about what happens if Lisa wins veto. Who do you put up next? Because that could be the can of worms.
Yeah, and honestly, like, sorry, Leah. I don't know. I mean, like, I get that there's a lot of people that want to pull in Leah, but that's kind of the problem if I'm Chelsea. Like, you know, put Leah up there. Maybe make an enemy out of Leah. It's dangerous. It's possible that it's dangerous, but, like, if you could actually get Leah out, I think that's great for Chelsea. I think that Leah is not somebody that Chelsea should want to leave in the game at this point, because she doesn't have much of a relationship with Leah. She's already concerned about Leah and Cam. So why not just take that shot? It's an easy one to make. And it makes a lot more sense to me than using her HOH on Angela or Kenny. But I think using it on Angela or Kenny still makes a lot of sense. And you can still just even say, like, sorry, Leah, I need you as a pawn, given that you were one of those people that voted. I'm still shooting at Kenny or Angela. And then, hey, if it backfires onto Leah, it's no sweat off her back. So I think that would probably be my plan.
Yeah, and I think the only concern potentially there could be if Leah being on the block causes a lot of doubt and friction because some of the alliances or allegiances she has are hesitant to vote her out. But we'll see how that plays out. I have heard that, I think there's quite a few people that are very content with Angela leaving this week. So if Lisa does come off that block and Angela's on there, I think there's a decent chance that Angela's the one that gets the boot as well. That's entirely possible. So we will find out.
Okay, so there's some more conversations between Quinn, Tikor, and Chemo about working together, talking about Cam as a threat. They really like Cam, but he definitely should go before jury. They're all sort of wary of the fact that somebody like Cam could theoretically just run the table in competitions if they ever, allow that to happen. So they are concerned about Cam. They talk with Joseph a lot as well back there and hang out. There is I think just I think Joseph probably gravitates toward that group a decent amount. They don't talk about him a lot as a potential ally, but I think he is somebody that would be more in their camp than a lot of others. He also, of course, is in the have not camp as well, I would say. Wasn't a have notter himself, but is closely linked with a lot of them in there, including Quinn and Tucker. And so interesting stuff there. Again, that group continues to develop and seems to be the one that is the budding group of the week.
Yeah, I'm very, very, again, I really like this trio of Chemo, Tikor, and Quinn. I think they're very good. I think having Rabina for Chemo and Tikor is another good person to go for. I think Quinn is still also in good with Rabina. I like this group. I think Joseph is very fascinating one for me, Taran, because Joseph, for a little while there, looked like he was in one of the best spots in the house. But now I feel like he's weirdly on an island. I know he's got connections and other people looking out for him, but I don't know what happened. I don't know if he got spooked or what exactly. Where would you pinpoint the moment where things went sideways for him?
So basically what happened with Joseph on first night of feeds, he was in with everyone.
Yeah.
And he was trying very hard to make Matt work. And despite the fact that he was that Angela and Matt were going against each other, he was trying to bridge that gap because he wanted to work with Angela and her side, but he also wanted to maintain his connection to Matt. And so he eventually pitched an alliance between Angela and Matt. That he went to Matt with, and then Matt told a bunch of people about. And it really made, in a lot of people's minds, Joseph became really linked to Angela. And when Angela called Matt out, Matt was like, "Why would you do that, Joseph?" And Joseph was like, "I had nothing to do with this." But from that point forward, really, Joseph's association with Angela and the backlash from Matt just sunk a lot of his strategic positioning. And, a lot of the conversations from Matt and anybody that was talking to Matt was like, we'll target Angela and Joseph. And so I think his game really sunk with that. So really, I mean, it was just trying too hard to make Matt work and abandoning that ship too late really sunk a lot of his social capital. He's in an okay place.
Mm-hmm.
He's not in imminent danger at the moment, but he is in terms of getting into a power position, he has certainly fallen from grace.
Yeah, I think he needs to regain some of that confidence he had because I don't we've talked about. We like an active player. You're trying to do some stuff, make some connections. I think right now he touched the hot stove and he might be a little hesitant, but I do think he'll regain that confidence later on.
Mm-hmm. So the big event of the night really was a lengthy conversation between Quinn and Leah. Now, there has been some talk about the two of them and their flirtations, but Leah is fairly flirty with everyone, so it's hard to know exactly where things might actually stand. But basically, Quinn has been talking about wanting to pull Leah in, as have many people, but Quinn seems to be the most serious about it, as he spends a good portion of the night, late at night, talking and flirting with Leah. He kind of lets her know, okay, listen, now that Matt's gone, I can tell you some of this stuff. Basically, I'm a little worried about you right now because I do think there's a good chance that you might be looked at as a pawn because you weren't with the majority of the house. And I did try to warn you, by the way. Once Matt was guaranteed to stay on the block, he was mouthing Matt to her on the couches. She ignored him and voted Matt to stay anyway. But he really wants to work with her. And she reiterates to him that she really wants to work with him. She really likes him from the second she saw him in this house. And the flirtation is happening. It's very awkward some of the time, but there's definitely some flirtation. She's got some like spoons that she's using as hands that he's holding. It's a whole thing. But they get to talking about strategy. They're constantly interrupted by the flirting, but they're also talking about the strategy. And she ends up spilling basically everything about her game, including the barbershop alliance and how she's been approached by Brooklyn. She's had a bit of a thing with Lisa, and she's obviously linked with Makensy. And she even lets him know that like the women have kind of a loose agreement to work together. And so like spilling all of that, she asks him like, who are you like hoping to work with? And he says, well, I really like T-Core and Chemo. And she says, well, that's great. I like them too. I haven't really talked much game with them, but I was just talking to T-Core and I was really hoping that it was genuine. He says it is. Like they want to work with you. I've been talking to them about it. She says like, yeah, man, Lisa really is in my ears. She really wants to work with me, but I know it's probably not the greatest idea. And Quinn's like, it's not. Like it's really not.
Yeah, listen. First of all, a little before this, Quinn was in the backyard talking about, can you imagine how many drafts we effed up by getting rid of Matt? Now, Quinn, the good news, buddy, is that you didn't mess up my draft because you're still there, Leah's still there, and you're talking together. You're trying to form something. Love that. You have to get the spray bottle out, Taran, a little bit for Quinn.
You do. You very much do.
Hey, Quinn.
The spray bottle is necessary.
Quinn, keep it together. Stand up. Okay, I ruined my camera.
I was surprised you actually did it. Yeah, you are now in like you've turned the camera into like a love camera.
Well, I do like the lighting. It looks a little different here. No, but here's the thing. I think this is a good connection for the two of them because arguably with the whole conversation of Matt going, the debate has been that, people want to pick up the pieces. And I feel like out of the two, I would argue that Leah has kind of been the bigger free agent that a lot of people have been looking at because of the fact that she's been talking to a lot of people. So I think Quinn has her now, which is good. I think Quinn got a lot of information from Leah, which is good. I think Quinn gave up some information, which isn't that bad as of right now. Now, mind you, I'm not looking at whatever's happening since people have woken up. So we'll see what the events of today hold. But they made plans to have Leah talk to T-Core, talk to Chemo, kind of get involved there. This could be a very, 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 very good alliance. It could be. It really could be. And I have faith. But flirting and listen, a work flirt, not bad. A little flirt. You keep the joke going, the banter is going. That's lovely. We like that. It keeps you limber in a weird way. If it goes too deep and people start associating you two together and you're flirting, Makensy already made a joke of like, that's the new showmance. You saw what happened last week. You don't want that. So spray bottle yourself when you need to, because flirting's fine. Over flirting is not. Okay? Don't do it.
Yeah. So Leah basically proposes like, should we lock in something with T-Core and Chemo? And Quinn says, yes, I think that's a really good idea. They also mentioned potentially bringing in Brooklyn as a bit of like a trio that they could do. He likes that idea because he thinks that Brooklyn is very smart and somebody that they can work with. I'm actually not as sold on the idea of bringing Brooklyn in. I think that like Brooklyn is a very dangerous player to let in on so many of your plans if I'm Quinn. Like I want Brooklyn, there's that connection that they have because of the Pentagon. I certainly want to bring her into some things, but if I let her know too many of the things, I already know that she's smart enough to realize when she's at the bottom of things, and she's very clearly at the bottom of that thing. So that's where I would be a little skeptical, a little bit careful. But they continue to awkwardly flirt, and sometimes not awkwardly flirt. They agreed to a final 2. And he makes it very clear that he is like a big fan of the game. She's talking about like how, oh man, curly haired people win all the time. He's like, what? No, I don't even think that's happened. He starts going through all the winners. And they say, okay, well, we'll make a final 2. She's like, well, do you have a final 2 with like everyone? And he's like, ah, I do have some others, but you're the only one that matters, Leah. And she's like, well, who else do you have a final 2 with? And he's like, I have something like informal with Chemo. And this is where I was like, what are you doing?
That's right. Because everything else so far was fine. Do you have any other files? No, just you. Just you. I've been talking to people, but it's just you. It's always been you. Or something to that effect, because you're in the middle of flirting, so you're trying to also make it flirtatious. Don't bring up Chemo's name and then be like, but I also think we should work with Chemo and T-Core. No, because no, that's not good. This is my one worry for Quinn, is that he can sometimes be a little bit free pour with the amount of information he puts in someone's lap. And I think Leah, a very social butterfly here, right now you're number 1. You could fall down the power ranking. That information could be information she uses for someone else.
Yes. And here's the thing. This is the kind of situation, the kind of information where it probably doesn't matter right now. He probably gets away with it right now. Because why would she expose this right now? It makes a lot of sense for her to continue to work with Quinn. They trust each other, so on and so forth. It's probably fine that he did this right now, and that's probably why he felt comfortable doing it. However, even if he does get away with it in the short term, this is the kind of thing that can really kill you in the long term. Because if Leah is game savvy in any meaningful way, she's going to remember this forever. She's never going to forget that you have a final 2 with Chemo. And if you do end up dominating the game together, like, 8 weeks down the line, Chemo's still in the game, she's going to be like, I know that he has a final 2 with Chemo. I need to do something about that. I have that information. This is the kind of thing that is crucial to be secret in the late game, and let alone the early game. But like, it's just not the sort of thing that you want to give away, especially for free. And this was very much for free.
Yeah, and obviously this was a longer convo. A lot of info came out. We can naively hope that this is one of the pieces that wasn't remembered. I think one of the bigger pieces that is going to be top of mind for her right now is the fact that she could be someone that could end up on the block because of the fact that she voted to keep Matt. And right now, I think definitely the vibe I got leaving this conversation at the end of the night was, I'm going to put in a shift tomorrow, said Leah. And I think based on the little snippets I'm seeing, she's going to be actively putting in a shift and is not loving the perception that the house has of her. And I agree with you 100%. I don't think this is something that in the immediate future is going to hurt Quinn, because I don't think Leah's going to do anything about that right now. But y'all get together at the final 9, you get to the final 8, that might come out, or she might use it against you. It's entirely possible. And honestly, she should.
Yeah. Now, through all of the flirting, she does take like a moment to be a little serious. And she's kind of like, just to be serious for a second, like, I want to make this kind of clear that like, I want this to be a game thing, Quinn. Like, not like a romantic thing, essentially, is what she's trying to say. And she hopes that doesn't change anything about it. Like, she doesn't want this to feel like, oh, he's doing this because he thinks that there's something that might happen between the two of them. She wants him to be doing this because he genuinely feels like there's a game connection and that they can help each other in the game. And it gets a little bit awkward. And he is very much like, oh, of course not. That doesn't change anything for me at all. Like, that's like whatever. And then they awkwardly go back to flirting after that. Like, oh, we can still flirt. Like, it's not a thing that we need to stop flirting. Nothing needs to change. But they do have that kind of moment, which is definitely worth pointing out at this point.
I'm very happy she did this, because I think especially setting that up right now immediately, essentially like, okay, so you gave me a lot of info, I gave you a lot of info, we're in this together, but no kissy, no cuddles, okay? Just so you know, that's not why we did that. And it's like, lock it in. We are playing the game together now. This is what we're doing. I like that. I also think it is good for Quinn in the long run because, and listen, I've only known Quinn for a week at this point. His Twitter game fire, but at least now he knows. So if he does see Leah flirting with a cam or talking nice, batting eyelashes at somebody else, he can't get in a Shaquille feels. I mean, he might, but he knows that there was nothing here romantically in the first place. So lock it in, Quinn. Lock it in, or I swear to God, the spray bottle when I see you. Okay, keep it together.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because let me tell you, I got the same vibes I think Leah was getting, which was that like that he was maybe sacrificing part of his game because he really was maybe hoping for something. And so she has now made it fairly clear that do not do that. We'll see how this continues to advance over time. But that is where things stand for now. And that's pretty much what was going on last night. Pooya, anything else that you wanted to bring up?
Okay, fun stuff. So I said earlier that some people weren't sure who that third vote is. Makensy brought up that it could be Chemo, and Kenny has brought up that it could be Joseph. So despite, ironically enough for Makensy, her, Leah, and Lisa are all have-nots in that same room, and she's saying this in front of Lisa, who is not owning up to this vote either.
Yeah. Which is very funny.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed that. The Chelsea's letter was very fun. Her family was like, giving her all the support, but then also no showmance. And if that guy is in the house, only after you win the money can come to me and I can approve them if necessary. So I did like that. And Chelsea picked Alicia Keys for her HOH Basket music. So that's pretty nice. We like that. It's cool.
There you go. Well, right after this update ends, I think we will be premiering the Matt exit interview. So stay tuned here on the channel for that if you want to see what Matt had to say about his time in the house. I will, of course, be back tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 26 live feeds, including, of course, the nominations. Pooya?
I need to talk about Lisa and her purifying of the have-not room. She nearly got away with it, Taran, and she would have if it wasn't for the meddling me. Oh my God. So first of all, she ran this moon water around the room like it was sage for good luck or whatever. Okay, that's cool. That's fine. She did something that I very much opposed. She went ahead and you put some essential oils on the pillow and then used her hand and wiped it on the pillow like she was cleaning a window. And she did it to all 4 pillows. No one else was in the room. Do not put anything on my pillow unless I say it's okay. I saw Kirsten bring this up that, for someone that's prone to acne, this could be bad. Because I've heard of this, spray the pillow and it's for good night's sleep, like you can get that or whatever. I don't approve of this. And future Big Brother house guests, always flip your pillow now before you go to sleep because you never know who's done something to the other side of that pillow. Always flip the pillow.
Flip your pillow and wash your toothbrush.
Yeah, listen, Lisa's been giving me comedic feeds, so I'm here for it. But also, I can recognize this is someone who just does not recognize boundaries, with the glitter and now the spraying of the essential oils. Do it on your bed as much as you want. Other people's beds are not for you to decide what to do it with.
Yeah, she's just trying to curate the vibes.
Well, the vibes are off, man. The vibes are in the ground. This was negative vibes for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll have clean pillows tonight as we
please.
As we slumber before tomorrow morning's update, 11 a.m. Eastern. Plenty to talk about. Of course, you can see it there on the screen. We will be live with the BB Q&A for the patrons at 3 p.m. Eastern today to talk through some of the stuff going on in the house and answer your questions. So tune in for that as well. Of course, on Sunday, we'll have another episode. You can find me over on Twitch, hanging out, watching episodes, playing games, and talking feeds. So you can maybe even find me there today at some point. So tune in over there. And we've got some scripted content. We've got the getaway content. Plenty of stuff for you to check out. Pooya, what do you got going on?
Well, if people want to see what I'm thinking about stuff going on the feeds when I'm not on here Friday mornings, at Pooyaism on Twitter, that's where you can find my musings. Twitch.tv/Pooya, that is where I am when I'm not podcasting. I'll be live tonight, as I usually am on Fridays, 10 p.m. Eastern, talking to the community, watching some feeds on the side, most likely, talking about my feelings on the show. So come check us out over there. Come say hi. It's always a good time. And then Sundays, we have the weekly Goose Goose Duck Lobby, which is a Among Us type game that myself, Taran, I invite all the podcasters and some of the alumni to play. It's always a good time. You can check that out over there, 5 p.m. Eastern on Sundays. And then podcast, I got your 90-Day Fiance still going on. Next 5 weeks are going to be all tell-all based, so that'll be fun. And myself and Shannon have been talking Traders New Zealand, which when the feeds are down, I do recommend it. Give it a watch because we're 8 episodes deep, and this season has been incredible. So, give it a look. Let me know what you think. And that's all I've got for y'all here today.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us here today. And I will see all of you next time.